It's a new year. 2023 is here. Putting on my list of minis. Newsies and let's cheers. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the past. Time to get on the Not Your Average Joel podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So today we are talking about a topic that I feel like needs to be addressed. It's something that I see society fall into this trap, and to be honest, I have fallen into this trap as well with this specific topic. But before I tell everybody what this topic is about, I want to welcome a new guest to this channel. So this is Gary. I've known him for close to a month now. It hasn't been too long, but we met at the beginning of this year on this app called Holy, which I know most people probably know it as United Young, just because I talk about United Young so much. But this year they changed the name of the app to Holy, so that's where I met Gary from, and it's been good getting to meet him and talk to him, and we've already had some like really deep conversations about just specific things. So I'm glad to have him on here today. So welcome to the channel.
Hey, Joel, thank you for having me. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Gary Chen. So to talk about a little bit about myself, so my family and I immigrated to America, United States of America, uh, around when I was 10. First year we stayed in Michigan with our sponsor, and then after the first year we moved to New Jersey. So I consider myself a Jersey boy. I grew up in New Jersey for majority of my life. And I went to college in Pennsylvania, went back to postgraduate education in New Jersey, back in New Jersey. So I'm a dentist in the Army. I've been in the Army for about 8 years, and Army has sent me to different places. I've been in, I work and live in Alaska, Texas, and currently I'm in Washington State, this beautiful Pacific Northwest. I love the outdoors. I love my coffee, and I just like, I just love nature, and I just love connecting with people from all over the world, from all walks of life.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you shared a little bit more about like your upbringing. I'm glad that people are getting to know that side of you, and definitely thank you for your service as far as being in the Army. I know that definitely takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength for sure. I know it's something that if I were to be honest, if there was a draft that happened and I just so happened to be in it, I may not be too happy just because I maybe I'm not I don't feel like I'm as skillful into it. So I'm glad that there's people out there that voluntarily go out and serve the country. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. So
Thank you.
yeah. And that's, I was just thinking about it since you're in Washington. I noticed like the a cup of coffee over there. So if everybody sees a little bit of smoke coming up, it's because of the coffee. And I'm over here in a little bit warmer weather, and I just got myself a water bottle. So if you ever see me grab my water bottle, so that's that. And yeah, that's scary, everybody. So I'm glad that he was able to be here today, and we are going to go ahead and tell everybody what this topic is going to be about. So today's topic is going to be on materialism. So, like I said just a few minutes ago, materialism is something that I have fallen into, like as far as a trap, because there's so many things that we see with our eyes that we're like, oh my gosh, I want that so bad, and I like almost in a way like you save up your money for this kind of things. And, like I said, I've done that before. And I'm sure that most people have fallen into that at some point in life. So I have three different categories that I feel like many people fall into when it comes to materialism. So I am going to be asking Gary these questions first. And then, of course, I will give my answer as well, with each question that I present. So the first one I want to talk about is about technology. So I'm sure if are here and you are not living under a rock, you know that technology is on the rise and that technology is progressing and upgrading to so many different levels each and every like year. It seems like there's always the newest phone that comes out, the newest laptop, the newest tablet, all of those kind of things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about technology because just because, even with our parents, the way they grew up, technology was not that big. So like now seeing it here, 40, 50 years later in our time, we do see a lot more more dependence on technology. So it leads me to my first question. So considering the rise of technology, do you see like maybe things going down for the worse when it comes to connection, like face to face connection between people? Or do you feel like it's kind of the same? Like, everybody could find a balance in that, with technology and face to face conversations.
Well, hey, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. The way I see it, I think the rise and the gaining popularity of social media technology has certainly changed our lives, for better and for worse. So the way I see it, it's not better or worse because I see it as better and worse. It's a double-edged sword. Would you like to start with the good one or the bad aspect of the social technology, the social media technology?
Oh, I guess we could start with the good side of things.
Oh yes, I like that. So I think social media technology has been good to help. It's been good because it makes it really convenient. It makes it more convenient for us to maintain connected with families and friends, even though we don't live close to one another. For example, myself, I've been in the military for 8 years. I move around. I've been away from New Jersey for the last 8 years. You know, every 3 or 4 years, I move. I relocate to different locations. So it's really important for me to keep in touch with folks when we live geographically distant. And second, social media technology allows me to reach out to like-minded folks like yourself, even though we live in Washington, you live in Alabama. Without social media technology, what are the odds of us meeting together and talk about life and share thoughts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many good things that could come out of technology for sure. Like you said, you get to reconnect with family in that way, that you used to probably back in the day would have to just write a letter to somebody, but nowadays there's like FaceTime and there's, things like Zoom that we're on and, or anything like that to where you're able to like see people face to face, in a way without actually physically being there. So I think that's just, that's one really good thing about technology is that it brings people together in that way.
Right. And I remember back in middle school when I went to summer camp and one summer we had to write letters back to our families, and we had to write on a piece of paper, put an envelope, put a stamp on it, write our parents' address, and then you have to wait about 2 3 weeks before you get a response.
Mm.
And so yeah, but social media has really made that way much easier. I could call my friends in Missouri or call my friends in Florida, and we could have that interaction on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I love that there's that opportunity now to where, yeah, because you don't have to wait weeks and weeks, and so many things have changed in that period of time from when you sent off that letter to when you finally receive that letter. It's almost like you're getting delayed, like updates of life. But now, like you said, here we are in this time and period of our life to where you could just find out things within a minute. Like it's like technology and social media, it just goes through so fast, and you can just see all of those updates on places like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. So there's definitely a beauty to social media for sure.
So for the bad part about social media technology is that if we're not using it properly, it unintentionally creates this uh, I call it quote quote bubble in each one of us and puts us in our own alternate reality. Like you can see it in on social media, people argue over the most inconsequential things, and they want to be right. They want to win an argument for no reason but in reality, if you talk to that person face to face, we could come up with some agreement. Um, But that social media creates that wall, that artificial barrier where people don't know how to interact. It
Mm.
it, it definitely it creates that like I say, creates that bubble where people don't see each other face to face, and they yeah, they just it's quite weird. It's a weird phenomenon. Um,
Mhm.
and second, my point is they don't see how they can't relate to the person they're talking to. Um, they
Mhm.
can't disagreements, and they feel like any disagreement will pop that bubble, and they go ballistic.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. I feel like everybody, I feel like when it comes to social media and trying to like cause a debate or something like that, there's some people that thrive off of that. I feel like there's a lot of people that thrive off of, that may be scared to say something to your face, but then when it comes to social media, it's like, oh, I'm ready, like, get my Twitter fingers going and, let's get going. So I could see where, people are on there just ready to really put out their true feelings in a way. Like, sometimes it could be like that. Sometimes people are just doing it just to egg people on or, to really, tick somebody off. I could see, where people thrive off of like that drama, I guess that comes with social media sometimes. So
Right.
I can see where people don't want to some people don't want to create the, relatability or come to an agreement on things. They just want to post something and then jump off and then like kind of leave it to where, sometimes if I'm going to be honest, like on social media, if I see somebody post a status and I'll see like 60, 70 comments, I'm reading all of that because it's like sometimes it's like entertainment to me. So I'm like, oh
Oh,
my gosh, let me get the popcorn out.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. We tend to with that social media. It kind of so. For example, if you and I were interacting face to face, we look at each other, we gather our thoughts. The thoughts from our brain would go through a filter and then comes out of our mouth. With social media technology, we don't get that. It's just you're staring at the screen, you see a message, and you just type up your thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts should be kept to yourselves.
Absolutely right. I know there's some things that are better left unsaid, and I know like even I feel like sometimes it is easier for me to talk on social media just because I know I've talked to you about this before, but like growing up as like an introvert, I just feel like the pressure is kind of off when it comes to posting on social media. Sometimes there is that nervousness if you're putting something pretty bold out there, but I feel like for
Right.
the most part, when it comes to something pretty general or pretty basic, I don't mind sharing my life on social media, but when it comes to being in person, it is a little bit more intimidating in a way, just because it's like a mind game in my head.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just definitely can see the negative side of social media, and like I said, there's also that good side of social media to where I can kind of let my I feel like for the most part I'm an introvert, but I let the little percent of my extrovertness come out on social media and even on things like this. This is kind of why I wanted to do a podcast, just because I've always been known as like the introvert, the quiet guy. And it's like, here's my opportunity to get my voice out, to get to speak about topics that need to be addressed, or just even fun topics, just for people to get to know me a little bit more and to get to know the people that are in my life as well.
Right, Joe. No, I can relate with you, brother. And my second part, about the negative side of social media is that it almost caused us to we had the tendency to passively socialize with other people because we don't even have to leave our house or our I call it a safe haven to talk to another person. So, when you see when you talk to your friends and your friends send you something funny and you say LOL, in reality, are you really laughing in your house?
That's right. I know there's so many times where I put that laughing emoji and it's like I'm not really laughing, but like I'm just letting you know that my intent or my tone of my message is kind of like lighthearted and not maybe too serious. So I have those moments where I'll put LOL, but it's like, really, my LOLing? Maybe 99% of the time is a no.
Right. And this also goes to my next point about passively socialize is that we sort of missed that bond with social media, because our facial expression tells a lot about ourselves, our emotions, and what how we think, what makes us tick. Um, but the social media, when we're just chatting on Facebook Messenger or texting, it takes away that aspect. It goes to my one of my analogy. So I came back from my deployment in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. And when I came back to the States, everybody was wearing masks and they had to socially distance. It really took away that I missed that facial expression for missing people's facial expression for about a year. And it was almost emotionally devastating to me because I felt like that year was really depressing.
Yeah, it really was. It was, unfortunate that you only had to look at people just through their eyes, and like that only tells part of the story. Like you said, your facial expressions, tell a lot. Like, when it comes to like, oh, like, you can just tell when you're surprised or, when you're, pretty, happy to see somebody, but it's like you really can't tell when that mask is covering your, most of your face. And it's just, it definitely did bring a lot of, you know, barriers when it came to conversations because not many people also it almost was like encouraged not to speak to people and kind of keep your distance from people. Don't even they even like were talking about with big groups and stuff like that. And it's hard for me just because I have a big family, so like being told basically you can't be in more than a few people, 5 people. It was pretty challenging, but I'm glad that we got through those times, but those were some hard moments for sure.
Right. And recently I was reading this article from the Atlantic that the United States of America, our culture, facial expression is our trademark culture in this country. They said they said compared to other countries, the people in America tend to smile more. And one of the reasons being is that we're a nation of immigrants. We have a very diverse background of all people from all walks of life. So we all speak different languages. And so smiling, it's kind of a nonverbal language to say, I accept you for who you are. We want to establish rapport. Um, so, you know, so I mean, like that's, smiling and all this different facial expression is are other ways of communicating with another person. We have to wear masks and not social and socially distance from our friends and families.
Yeah, yeah, I think that I like, I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that that's like a smile or like a head nod or something like that is almost like, like you said, an acknowledgement of like, hey, basically like, it's like a friendly kind of gesture, like a invitation, maybe not to, even if you don't speak, like it's just kind of like, I acknowledge you and I see you and like, it's almost like in a way it's like you're saying like, like hopefully you're having a good day. It's almost like you're saying things without
Right,
saying it. It's like you're having that positive energy and you're just giving it to that other person.
right. And personally, for me, wearing keeping my mask on makes it so hard to speak. When I talk to people, you're generating more, that breath behind that mask, and quickly just accumulates all this moisture. It makes it so uncomfortable to speak. So naturally, we're less likely to speak.
Yeah, that's very true. And I could definitely relate to that where I've had a mask on before and it just seems like sometimes I have to take off my mask in order to tell you like what I'm trying to say. Sometimes people are like, huh? What? So it's like, oh my gosh, let me just take it off. Like I know I'm going against the rules, but it's
Right,
like you can't tell what I'm saying. Like especially like at a restaurant when they're like, name and you tell them your name and then they're like, huh? And they're like, oh my gosh, let me just take it off so I can just tell you my name clearly because that happened one time where I tried keeping it on the whole time, and they had my name like completely off. So it's like there's that challenge there, like you said, to where people almost don't even want to speak when it comes to wearing a mask in those cases because, like you said, it gets kind of hard at times.
right. I remember having to give a class one day, and I had my mask on. I felt like I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
I like that. Womp,
Yeah,
womp, 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 womp. Yeah, that is funny. I love Charlie Brown. That makes me feel nostalgic just thinking about Charlie Brown. But yeah, I can see what you mean. It is very like hard to kind of hear people sometimes. And speaking of like being physically face to face with someone, like I feel like even with technology, I feel like technology is I think you even mentioned something about a safe haven, and I just think about when people have these phones, like everybody, when they go out in public, this is like their go-to. Like it's almost their go-to is not to actually meet somebody. It's like when they're in a big group setting, it usually is people going straight to their phones. And I can say that I've fallen into that just because, that we've talked about being like introverts and all that. I feel like that's usually my go-to is just going straight over to my phone. And, people like, like it's almost like I want people to talk to me, but at the same time, I don't. So it's like I'm in that weird headspace and weird
I
mind
agree.
game. Where it's like,
Yep.
I want you to be my friend, but at the same time, don't talk to me. So it's like, it's one of those weird kind of things that I still struggle with. And, I'm definitely want to improve on for sure.
No, I can relate that. I can relate to that because as an introvert myself, sometimes when you're in a crowded setting, it's much easier to revert to your phone and talk to your friends who you're close with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I guess kind of why I even brought up safe haven as well, just because it almost feels like, okay, this is like sanctuary. This is like where I'm good, I'm safe. I know I can talk to these people on here and just, get through, like as far as with me with church, like, if I'm sitting alone in church before the service starts, like here's my go-to. And, because if nobody's talking to me, like I'm just going to get on here until the service is about to start, and then it's like, okay, now I'm good. So, but I know I hate to even have that kind of tendency or practice because I know I see it within other people, and when other people are on their technology, it almost it closes that wall, or it's almost like people putting up that wall that it's almost like they don't want you talking to them, and it's like it's unfortunate because like you may have a lot of similarities like within church. There's a lot
Good.
of people that are there that are, wanting to pursue a, relationship with God and, want to have the same, and we may be going through the same stages of life. Like with me, I'm going to be turning 30 this year, and there may be other people in my life that are people within my church that are in their, early 30s, mid 30s, or even late 20s that are going through the same things that I'm going through, but like, that connection is not happening because of technology. We kind of build up these walls, and it's unfortunate, and that's something that I definitely want to improve on. I'm hoping to do that this year, but it's a hard battle just being an introvert and trying to get myself out there. It's a challenge to get over.
Oh, it's the way I see it, the slow progress is progress. So as long as you're making that effort, it counts.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, somebody once told me on one of these podcast episodes way in the beginning, they told me that like as long as you're doing 1% better each and every day, then like you can't go wrong. I think as long as you're making some kind of progress, it's progress at the end of the day. As long as you're just taking that one step forward and not two steps back, I think you're winning when it comes to the game of life.
It kind of goes back to my our side conversations the other about the Slight Edge by it's a book written by Jeff Olson. He talks about how the little life decision we make every second, every minute, every hour, every day to every week, it's a compound interest of all that little efforts that we make to become who we are. There's no magic bullet to say, as an introvert, I want to be more social. And boom, overnight, you become a very sociable person. It takes that little steps that you take. When you walk walk down the streets down your neighborhood and you see a stranger, you just smile and say hi. That's one step. Or if you go instead of doing online church, you go to church in person. That's another step. It's all that little thing that adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely need to get that book because I know you mentioned it to me the other day and it sounds really interesting. So I definitely want to get that book because I think it does teach like some valuable things within that book of like, taking those small little steps in order to get to like the long-term goal that you have, pursue and wanted to pursue in your, heart and in your mind. So, I think that's really good. Just taking those small little steps can get you far. And like once you like a year from now, you may look back on it and think like, wow, look how far I came just by making these small little changes each and every day, or even if it takes a slower process, even if you make these small changes each week or each month, like I said, there's no race when it comes to, reaching your goals. There's always, it takes a long time and it requires a lot of patience for sure.
Certainly not.
Yeah, I know. For me, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you would think by now that I would have this down, that like even with this podcast, here I am on episode 55 and I'm still, trying to find my way of, communicating with people and like making sure I have the right balance of like trying not to talk too much, but then at the same time not talking so little. So there's always that fine line of, not being too quiet about a topic, but then at the same time not overwhelming, somebody with like word vomit or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, brother. I think you talking too much, which I disagree. I think you being able to elaborate yourself, express your heart, it's a plus. It's a good thing. I mean, it really makes this podcast a really pleasant conversation as opposed to being a more like an interview.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that. I know there are moments where I feel like maybe I do overwhelm some of my guests, but I'm glad in this case it's a positive outcome out of this. So I
Yeah.
definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, it adds more ideas to our conversations, and the more we could build upon.
Yes, absolutely. So, before I get into the next topic, I have one more question a quick little question and that I want to ask about technology. So, I know nowadays, of course, there's like I was mentioning not too long ago, there's like the newest phone comes out and the newest cars come out and these different kind of things. Are you one of those type that are always like once the new phone comes out, you want to go get that new phone, or do you like care less about those kind of things?
Pretty much care less about them because an iPhone Mini 12 is the same as iPhone Mini 14, so so I can still call people. I can still do the same thing with an old phone. And as a matter of fact, I still have my Android. I use it to take pictures. And that phone has all this. The screen's all shattered. I mean, that's my anti-theft device because no one will want to steal that thing.
Yeah, yeah, nobody wants to go after those. They want to go after those brand new things. So I'm kind of the same way as you. Like, if if my phone does start messing up, I will at that time get like maybe the newest phone. But I'm not that type that like like with my last situation, a couple years ago, I had I had my phone was messing up, and I ended up getting like the newest phone at the time, which was an 11 Pro Max. And then like a month later, the 12 came out. So I wasn't gonna be like, oh crap, let me go back to the Apple store and go get the newest one. But I do know people that are like that, where as soon as the newest one comes out, they go right after it. But then I start thinking, why? Like the only newest thing is that maybe the quality of the camera may be just like a tad bit better, but not to where you can tell a significant difference. So it's
Right.
almost like, where, like, that pursuing of like getting the newest technology and stuff like that is like maybe not practical, not for me at least. That's just too much money to be keep going out there and trying to get the newest phone and having to keep making payment after payment and takes years to get that payment off, sometimes depending on how
I,
you do it.
oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm not about living with the Jonesies. I'm all about functionality of what I purchase. Um, I've been I was able to switch to an iPhone Mini 12 2021. So I'm far behind, and my video game platform is Xbox 360.
Nice. There you go. That's definitely taking me back.
Yeah, I don't have I'm not out there to buy the newest PlayStation or I don't even know what game platform they have out there. Was it PlayStation 6 or 7? I don't even know. Like I'm you know, I'm old school.
Yeah, same here. I think the only like game consoles that I've played on, like probably the newest thing is like the Wii, and that's been out for a little while now. So
And before I buy any new platform or buy anything new, I do a lot of research to see like, will this really serve me well? Does it really serve a purpose in my life? And and yeah, and I do make some hard decisions.
yeah, and that's good that you actually do all that research and like making sure like is this worth even getting? Like, will I even have enough time to even get on something like this? Because some people do buy like these big things and then they only use it for like a month and then it just sits there. Just nobody ever uses it again because maybe life gets busy. So then it's almost like, that money that you spent on that newest, console, whether it's, PS5, 6, whatever the newest one is, you buy it and then you maybe play with it at the very beginning, just that excitement of having it, and then it just like life gets busy, and then it's just kind of sitting there like it never should have just been bought in the first place. It's like all that
Right.
time is just building up dust.
Yep. And it kind of goes to my next point. So my dad's a business person. And I get this knowledge from him a lot. He said the two happiest time, of boat of owning a boat is purchasing the boat and selling the boat.
That's a good way of thinking. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because you got to buy, purchase a boat, you got to purchase insurance, you got to purchase, docking fees and all the money you have to pay to upkeep a material, and equipment. So, I mean, that's just more money out of your pocket. And, you know, do I like having a boat? Absolutely. I do like having a boat, but how often do I use that boat? When I live in, you know, if I live in, let's say, Missouri, like, middle, in the Midwest, how often do you use it? Not a whole lot.
Yeah, that is true. So yeah, I think that's, a really good way of thinking that like, like once you buy something, there's that commitment of, there's work you may have to put on it, if maybe if it's not the newest boat, or maybe if there is something that, went down, you got to fix that up. And like you said, there's insurance that comes with that. So there's a lot to think about, like before you actually go into buying something like, a boat or a car or something like that. Really do your research, people. So the next one I want to talk about is the idea of like fashion. I feel like many people, I can't really say for me, but I know for many people, fashion is like super important to people. They like to get the newest clothes. They like to, for women, they like these handbags that cost thousands of dollars and, stuff like that. So I guess my question for you is, do you feel like you have to keep up with the world when it comes to fashion and like brands, or are you more of that type that like who really cares about that kind of stuff?
Well, if I to keep up the world, to me, I'm more like I keep up with the environment around me. Like, look at here in the Pacific Northwest. It's currently raining right now. So guess what I'm wearing? I'm wearing a rain jacket and just keep myself warm. So yeah, in some way I do keep up with the world in the real world. Yeah, I dress appropriately for the climate and environment I'm in. So yeah, like when I was in Alaska, where it's winter for half of the year, and we're constantly snowed in. I wear a lot of winter clothing, and I wear muck boots because it's wet all the time. Um, I mean, is it a trendy fashion? I mean, it's a matter of perspective. To someone living in Alaska, yeah, that's pretty much a popular fashion. Camos and mug boots, but it may not be fashionable in, let's say, California. So I mean, it's all relative. Um, Now, do I care about following a trend and dress fashionably? I mean, I like to dress functional. I like to wear clothes that serves a purpose. Um, just like right now, I'm wearing a rain jacket, out in the rainy weather,
Hmm.
and I like the fashion. I like camo because I've been west in the countryside for a while. I like this kind of fashion, but in a metropolitan area in Washington, that might not be fashionable. But like I said, it's all relative.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you answered it in the way that you did, because the way I was thinking it in my head was like keeping up with the world, like with modern day culture, but like I like how you use like the actual like world, like as far as the environment and the climate that you're in. I think that's a really good way of like putting an answer into that question, because like you said, you're in an area where it's raining, it's a little bit cooler than it is over here where I'm at, which we still have our cold moments, but not as often as y'all do. So, just having to adjust to the climate that you're in. Like you said, you're in a rain jacket right now, and here I am with, short sleeves on, and, over here
Right.
in Alabama in the deep
I-
South. So, and
But
speaking of camo, I was thinking, yeah, I think you'll fit pretty well here in the South because we love camo too.
yes, no, I'm looking forward to it because after July, I'll be down there in Georgia.
Yeah,
So
that'll be definitely a big difference between Washington and Georgia as far as like the weather and the climate goes.
right. I mean, I'm acclimated to the cold, but at the same time, if you give me a choice between a warm weather and severe cold weather, I take the warm weather.
Yeah, yep, same here. That's why I like, living where I live, to where it's warmer most of the year, and like we have a small period of coldness and a little bit of chill here and there. Don't have much snow. So like, I do like to see snow, but as far as like it coming down here, people here in the South, we don't know what to do when it snows. And we go crazy. We go to the stores and buy all the bread and milk, and for some, it's just we're bizarre over here. We don't know how to act whenever it starts snowing. If that four-letter S word, not the bad word, but the SNOW come into the game, we're all like, oh crap, we gotta go into the stores and we gotta buy up everything just in case if we get trapped in, and like we're insane over here.
And look at the current events. Like I think they're at eggs to that shopping list, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, that the eggs are bizarre. Like I just saw that last week. Me and my mom were at the store, and I heard people talking about the egg prices. And like when I saw those egg prices myself, I was like, oh my gosh, like 18 eggs is like 15, $16 a carton. And it's like that's insane. Like I used to work in retail, and I used to work in a dairy department. So like I used to deal with the eggs a lot back in my previous job. And like the eggs were like everybody complained about the egg prices then, and they were like 188 or 288 or something like that. It's like y'all might want to be grateful like that it was that at the time, because now here we are, that prices have like it's not even quadrupled. I feel like it's gone up so much more than that. It's insane.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And even for like six, like if you want to just half a dozen, it's like three something. It's like, are you insane, people? Like this is like bizarre.
That is that is bizarre.
It really is. Like I'm definitely like it's a mind-boggling thing to even think about. So like I said, that just yeah, this is a crazy world we live in.
Yeah, I gotta buy the bread and milk.
And yeah, I know we're crazy over here. We people are all about that. So I'm glad that we brought up snow, because that does tie into like what we would wear as far as fashion. Like you get a jacket, or snow boots, you get the long socks, you get whatever you need to get through each time. But as far as like going after the newest brand kind of stuff, I'm not really into that kind of lifestyle. I'm more into whatever, like I guess growing up with a lot of siblings, we used to always just have hand me downs, like whatever our older brothers wore, it was handed down to us, or we'll go to like a thrift store, or somewhere like that where things are cheaper and discounted and on sale. So I've never really been into like the world of oh man, I gotta go get this this brand of, I can't even think of like the biggest brands of clothes, like I'm just not even into that world. But like when I think of like women, like I've always heard word like these brands like Gucci, and you hear about Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. So it's like I've never been like that type to like, oh, you gotta like, I mean, I know it's important to present yourself in like the best way possible, but like at the same time, I don't feel like I am like that big into like caring to impress anybody when it comes to what I wear. Like right now, I'm just wearing a t-shirt, and that's what I wear a good percentage of the time is a t-shirt,
Yeah,
or sometimes I'll wear a collar shirt too.
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what though, because when I was in high school, college, I grew up around that environment. I would go shop for like the most trendiest stores, like Abercrombie and Fitch, um, J. Crew for something that's more presentable, like business casual. Like I look for these high end brands, so I could look more presentable. But over time, you realize that's just a facade, because over time, we throw the clothes in the washer, it becomes, it wears off. So, you know, and you got to iron it. You got to iron it to get rid of the crease, get rid of all the wrinkles. I mean, like right now when I wear something business casual, I wear something that's I wear something that's wrinkle resistance and waterproofs, and and for the half the price that I paid for in with these fancy clothes.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking, whenever it comes to like what you want to buy, because yeah, there's that, having to take the time to iron something out and stuff like that. I mean, even though it doesn't take that long, but it's like I could be doing something else with these few minutes, just have do something a little bit more productive. So and I think that's like, good idea as far as, even like what kind of clothes to buy and stuff like that.
Right, and because we move around all the time, like over time we accumulate a lot of stuff from each assignments we're at. So right now I'm at a stage of life where when I look at stuff, I say, "Oh, golly, I got so much stuff. I want to get rid of them. Like I want to just live with a bare minimum so I can move around freely." So, I definitely grew out of that materialistic mindset. I enjoy simplicity.
Mhm.
I just like stuff that has fun. It gets me around.
Yeah.
It creates life.
Yeah, I think once we get older, we start to realize that like those things really don't matter at the end of the day. Like, yes, it's good to have yourself not look like, like a super like if I'm going actually to work in person, I do, dress accordingly, business casual and all of that. But like when it comes to like just a normal day of going out, if you're just going out to the grocery store or, wherever the case may be, like you just dress the way you do. Like if I'm just wearing a t-shirt, then like I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think you realize that like like you were saying, there's a whole facade or like putting up a front, like kind of to what to how you want to, I guess, show people how you look. And now I think as we get older, we kind of care less about those kind of things, and like we just
Right.
realize that there's just a simpler way of doing things and just not even worrying about I mean, not everybody dresses like that because they're worried that they're not impressing people, but like some people may have that kind of attitude. So I think just as important to just have a simpler life and live out your life, not worrying about what other
Right.
people think how you should look, compared to this modern day culture of, I gotta get the newest, handbag, I gotta get the newest jacket, I gotta get the newest shoes. So yeah, there's that.
Yep. I know I'm with you there.
So, something that I've definitely learned as I've gotten older as well, that like there are some things maybe I'll add into my, I guess, fashion. There's maybe some things that are trending that maybe I have added before, but like I don't make it to where it's like the only thing that I'm going after. Like I still try to keep it pretty simple overall.
Yeah. Well, add to that, my here's my other fashion that I think you might appreciate as an introvert is I do like buying some shirts that has a funny messages, with funny graphic, to to just walk around public and strike up a conversation, because people see that and they say, oh, that's a funny shirt, and they'll strike up a conversation, and then that's how you could build that bridge with other people.
Yeah, I actually like that you brought that up because that actually is stuff that like I have done, like, and I have like some other siblings that are probably maybe a little bit more of an introvert as well. And I can think of one family member, for example, like he told me one time he went to a concert and he wore a shirt and it says something like on the front of his shirt, it says something like, and I think it was a Christian concert actually. It said, "I'm a hypocrite." So everybody, when they saw the front of it, they're thinking, like, what? Like, what are you, like, why are you wearing that out here? Like, it makes it sound like you're like being a hypocrite for being a Christian or something like that. But then, he would turn around and on the back of his shirt, it would talk about like maybe something about, but like I have a God that like unconditionally loves me and died for me. And like it's almost like presenting the gospel on the back of his shirt. But like on the
Right.
front of his shirt, like it is true that we can be hypocrites and be a sinner. And I think like those kind of messages, whether like you said, a funny one, like I've had those funny shirts, or even like a serious message, it strikes up a conversation, it builds that connection, and you never know. In some cases, that could always lead to people sharing the gospel.
Absolutely, I'm with you there.
So yeah, I like those, definitely where I don't have as many funny shirts anymore. I think I do have one where maybe about 10 or 11 years ago when that song Sexy and I Know It came out, I do have a shirt that I think it does say like hello, I'm sexy and I know it. So I think I still have that one, but most of
Oh,
my shirts are a little bit more serious. I guess they strike a little bit more of a conversation. Like there's some more positive ones that I have. Like, oh, this one, I think it says restored by the Lord. So, like, like some of these, I got it from one of these Christian stores that used to be here, but it's no longer here. But yeah, I like those kind of shirts somewhere you can create conversation.
right, and that goes to my next story. I was in Los Angeles, and normally you don't see anyone wearing camo clothes in Los Angeles. And I went to a grocery store, and this old man came up to me and said, "Hey, I love your camo." And he was wearing another pattern camo as well. So we started talking about our outdoorsy lives, and that's how you build bridges with strangers.
Yeah, I like that. That you get to build that bridge and connection with other people, and you just meet over just what you're wearing. Sometimes people can build a similar, or because they may like that kind of fashion. I'm sure there are some people that have met somebody just based off what they're wearing, and they've been they've been good friends ever since.
Right. And like I said, it goes back to my point about dressing with a purpose. Like if you're wearing a fashionable, like if you're wearing clothes of like some high branded clothing, um what are you trying to convey? Right? If you're wearing Gucci, you're wearing Louis Vuitton. I don't know all these companies, but if you're wearing these expensive clothing, what message are you trying to send to your audience, to the public? Right? Like what purpose does it serve?
Yeah, I think that says a lot for sure. I think what you wear is almost like presenting a message and a statement that you want to basically give to people without saying the words actually. So it's like if you dress really nice, it's like are you giving off the energy that like you are, that you make a lot of money, like you like almost want people to think that you are one person, somebody that you're not. Like it's almost like putting on a persona in a way. So there's a lot that comes out even just based out of clothing. And I know some people may be thinking, like, I think you're maybe thinking too deep into it, but in reality, it's like, no, it's not that far fetched, really. If you think about the way people dress, I think, you can almost you almost know like who they are, who they're trying to be or present to people just based off what they're wearing.
I agree.
So, so yeah, I think fashion and technology, like I mentioned earlier, were two like big things I wanted to talk about. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and it's something that I feel like we all have fallen into trap with this trap, and it is on money. So
Yeah.
I know,
Uh,
I think a lot about money, and as far as everybody works for money. Everybody pursues like getting up to higher, promotions and different positions to where you can make more money. I know I can say I've done, I've definitely pursued that in life too, because you want to provide for yourself and then also provide for your family if you have a spouse and children, which as of right now I don't, but preparing for those moments for when it does happen. So I do feel like there's a lot of good that comes out of money, but at the same time there's a lot of bad that comes out of money, and there's a dangerous road that I feel like we can go down if like we're only pursuing money. And so I guess my question is kind of a question that I have been thinking about ever since I like typed it out and like sent it your way. So my question would be like, um, when does that love for money become dangerous, like in the game of life?
yeah, so that's a great question. I love that question. So personally, like myself, I see myself as a person who loves money, but I do not worship money. When love of money, the love for money is, the way I love money is I like money as an expendable element that helps me take steps to pursue happiness. Like what makes me happy is traveling to see friends and families, uh, or trying out the new restaurants in town, and we're going to movies from on the weekends like that. Those are kind of activities that make me happy. I enjoy doing them, but at the same time, I don't worship money. Where you see money as the only thing that would make you happy, and how you back to dressing fashionably, or buying the newest technologies. You associate expensive, fancy material goods with wealth. So you see people who are buying the newest cars, the biggest homes, right? Because they see that as being wealthy. So unintentionally they let money run their life, because now if you buy the newest car, you buy the most expensive car, you got to go work harder to make that money to help finance that material. So that that creates a vicious cycle of people letting money run their lives, not them managing the money.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's, I like that the first thing that you mentioned is that you love money, but you don't worship money. And that's kind of where I was thinking of, like when I thought about this question about I feel like it becomes dangerous when like you start idolizing money, like when that's like the only thing that you're pursuing. You're not even trying to pursue, like you may be spending a lot more time at work than like you probably could, like more than likely you could probably be spending the rest of your night at home with your loved ones, if somebody's married and has children, but like you choose instead to keep working in the office and like trying to get a lot of overtime to where like you make a lot more money. And because you may be trying to keep up with the Joneses, like we mentioned earlier, you try to keep up with the newest clothing, the newest cars, the newest, the biggest house, and that becomes a very vicious cycle that you can get down, and like you said, and it could be a very dangerous road when it becomes your idol and you put money before even before yourself. Like you start just spending like money on things that like you really don't need, but it's stuff that you want, and it's just it could be very it could be very bad, when you start to make those big expenses for like almost like living beyond your means, basically.
Right. Yeah. It's like um buying, like one of my friends, he bought a BMW like years and years ago, and he cherished that car so much it change completely changed his lifestyle. He wouldn't go to certain areas because he was afraid of getting his car scratched, or he would have to take the car to a dealership. I call it dealership because they charge you a lot of money to get the most simplest work done. um, so it's just he lets that car run his life. It just changed his completely changed his personality. I just, it was, it's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, like once you buy something like that big and that new, it's almost like you said, that car is now in control of your life with like what areas you want to go to and the things that you want to do and the people that you want to surround yourself with. It's like it's weird how like something like that can really change your whole life and like do a whole 180, sometimes for the worse.
Yeah. And what's scary about that is that you once you buy a new car and you take that car out of a dealership, it automatically depreciates. It doesn't add value to your pocketbook.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. Like people don't really think about those kind of things. They just it's almost like people fall into this like love at first sight kind of thing whenever they see a car that they really want. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's the car I want. And they may do a test drive right quick and then say like, well, yeah, this is it. And then they just kind of go with it and they don't really think about like the long term like, effects that happen after you get it after you get that new car. Because yeah, like it may be, nice to have in the moment, but like long term, yeah, like you said, there are some things that, like you said, it depreciates.
Right. And I just see like expensive items define me as a person, and that's one that goes to my next point. There's a book. Have you read that book called A Millionaire Next Door?
I haven't yet.
Yeah. The book talks about how a lot of people who are financially successful live below their means. They don't look, they don't dress, they don't dress like they don't dress like they're fake rich. They wear they wear ordinary clothing just like you and I. They look like average Joe, and they don't buy the most expensive cars. Um, so like when you live below your means, you accumulate all this disposable income for you to buy to use that money on something else more valuable, like traveling to see your friends, traveling to see families, and also, if you're into investments, you can invest in assets that actually appreciate in value over time. And that's why a lot of rich people, people who are wealthy, they generate a lot of they spend money on things that would generate passive income. So over time, they never have to work for money. They they're not worshiping money because they're using their, but they love money because they use money as a tool to help them generate more money, to help them take steps to pursue happiness. Um, and there's another book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That's another book I recommend reading. That's a really easy book to read. He talks about how um, the rich people use money to make money, but the poor works for money.
Mm,
Take the time,
yeah.
read. I love that book.
Yeah, so those are definitely two good books that, I definitely would want to, look into and, hopefully the viewers will, get into that book as well, because I think it's important to really be smart with how you use your money. If somebody is watching that may be of a higher, tax bracket, whatever you want to call it, somebody that's in a higher, upper class of like making a lot of money, because that money, if you don't spend it wisely or use it wisely, you can just come back down to struggling for a job. Like I've seen too many people that are like celebrities that make big money, like that maybe that person of the time, whether it's early 2000s or 90s or whatever the case may be, and then you never hear from them again after that. And it's almost like it's probably because they were like so used to the luxurious lifestyles and like getting the newest stuff and like the biggest places, and then when time comes around for stuff like when you lose a job or like you stop getting those acting gigs, you start to being that you start struggling with like being able to provide for that lifestyle that you've been so used to. So I feel like having the mindset of like you were talking about dressing like the average Joel in my case, dressing like the average person, but like making good money, like you just got to really be smart with like how you dress and like what kind of cars you buy and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, money is temporary and like money can come and go just like that. So,
No, I'm with you there. And this is why you see a lot of if you see a lot of people who won the lottery, how come you don't see them maintaining that wealth? You see a lot of people who won the lottery tend to go bankrupt afterwards in a year because they don't know how to spend it wisely.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
they'll take to buy the newest car, buy a biggest house. They could they could afford to put a down payment. All those items you purchase, you have to pay taxes. And if you win the lottery, you still have to pay taxes for the money you won. So all those costs add up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, people really don't even think about that when they win the lottery. They start thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this, 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 and it's like, hold on, like, you gotta, like people, I feel like we have this tendency, I've even fallen into it where like it's almost like you act on something before you really think about it. And sometimes even when I speak, it's almost like I'm saying something before I like think about it. So it's like almost like the way we say think before you speak is like really advice when it comes to money and like making sure you don't overdo it. It's kind of like think before you buy kind of thing. Think before you spend. Because like if we start, having this mindset of oh, I want this thing, this thing, this thing, and it's like long term, like probably a year from now, like if you just won a lottery, like Gary said, a year from now, you may be in a worse situation because you're a little too invested into, well, for one thing, you're probably too invested in not making investments. You were more invested in just getting the newest stuff and like using your money for that reason, just trying to stay relevant or whatever you want to call it when it comes to, some people maybe put a value when it comes to the newest things, like if you have the newest clothes or the newest phones or newest cars, people may look at you and value as someone that's, a little bit more wealthier and someone that, oh, look how good their life is. But then in reality, like Gary said, at the end of the day, we all have to pay our taxes, and that comes with even if you win the lottery. So it just shows, the tax season always shows me that at the end of the day, we're all equal in that way. You have to still do those kind of things, even if you're rich.
It always makes me smile when I hear people talk about, oh, if I won the lottery, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy a minivan. I want to go take on the biggest vacation ever. And it's just like just once you like I said, slow down. When you win the lottery, don't change your lifestyle drastically. Just live the same way as you live. But now you have that big pool of money to be financially independent. Um, I don't like to say I want to pursue wealth, but I do like to say I like to pursue financial independence because like $1 million for some person may not be enough for guys like Bill Gates or Elon Musk, but for me, $1 million it's a lot of money. So it goes back to you know being like the money, like the definition of wealth is subjective. It's all relative.
Hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think like having that, want to like pursue something like financial independence, it's super important. And like having that love for money is definitely not wrong. Like you could definitely love money and like want to have that money and want to use it for good, like when it comes to providing for you or for your family. I definitely think that's good, to have and, to like to be, financially independent to where you are not crossing that line of, oh my gosh, that's like the only thing that I want is like wealth, 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 money, 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 and having that attitude. It will not. It usually doesn't end up working out for people. It usually has people. They maybe go up on a big steep hill and then they have to have a deep descent into a valley of debt and stuff like that if they start spending their money a little too crazily out here.
Right. And it's something I like to educate, like, my guys, because I see a lot of young folks, showing up to work, drinking Starbucks every day. And how much do a cup of Starbucks Frappuccino cost? Like what, $5, $6? And,
Yeah.
but as you ask yourself, how many of these guys have own Starbucks stocks? I would say probably not, probably rarely. But if I buy Starbucks stocks, then over time, let's say 10 shares of stocks, it you know you just keep on accumulating shares. You're generating that passive income, whereas if you just buy Starbucks coffee every day, that's like $5 out of your pocket every day, and you know it adds up.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like even those small little things that you don't really probably see harm in when you're doing it at the moment, like you said, a $5 cup of coffee, at Starbucks. At the end of the day, if you make that a normal daily process to like that's something that you do each and every day before you go to work, it does start adding up, and people don't really think about even those small little things. So it does go to show that like you can make some differences in your life that, even those small changes to where it can really make a big impact on your finances to where like you're really being smart with how you spend your money and how much you can love your money, and have that balance without making money an idol.
Right. So, like, let's say a share of Starbucks stocks costs about $20 a share, right? So, I would buy 10 shares. That's $200. Over a year, Starbucks stocks went up $22 a share. That's two times 10. That's that's $20. That's 20 extra $20 in your pocket. I may not seem much, but over time, you're buying more shares after shares. Let's say 100 shares. That's 2,000, and now you have every year you have $200 in your pocket, and that's passive income. So it may not seem much in the beginning, but it goes back to that book I was telling you about, Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It's the little things you do in life where you accumulate, wealth, you generate that passive income. The little steps you take, it all adds up. And I hear people tell me, "Well, I don't have money to invest in stocks." Well, if you go drink Starbucks for a month, you have what, 5 times 30? That's $150. We have money. We have cash.
hmm Yeah, that's right. I think yeah, many people like to make that excuse to like, yeah, I don't have the money to do those kind of things. But it's like if you make these small changes, you actually would see that you actually do have the money. It's just like what you're actually investing your time and money in is like what makes the difference.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's really important to think about when it comes to money, and I think that's like a good way to kind of close out with this topic on materialism, because I was thinking like money is something that I feel like regardless of the age, like when I think of technology, there may be some people that are older, like with my mom, like she doesn't know how to use most technology. She still has like the flip phone, which, nowadays I feel like that's coming back. Actually, I do see like a commercial for yeah, the Samsung, like the flip phone. So, so yeah, I think, there's nothing wrong with, having that technology for, the older people that, some of them don't like any of this new technology. But when I think of money, I do think about it broadens the horizons to everybody from like 16 years old when you have your first job all the way up to, when you retire and even after you retire too.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I those days where I was using flip phones, and to text your friends, you gotta go like, all right, twos, that's ABC, that's you gotta like spell out your words.
yeah, I don't even in my time. Yeah, even in my time, like I think my first phone, it wasn't really a flip phone, but it was one of those like slide up phones. It was like it slid up like that, and it had like the keyboard. But yeah,
Yeah,
now things have changed in the last years or so. I didn't get my first phone until I was like 17, and that was what, 12 years ago. So yeah, things have changed in the past 10 to 15 years.
it really has, and it makes me feel really appreciative of what I have, and all the technological advancements we have made. It makes things like much easier, but then you also have to like say, hey, hold on, back it up. We still have things, that technologies cannot replace. Is that human face-to-face interaction we still need to bond with people. We still need to talk, use our voice to talk and communicate properly. And it's something that technology has seems to, you know, cause that to deteriorate.
Hmm. Yes, most definitely. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think like a good way to like as we're closing out on this topic, I was thinking about how, with technology, there's like you said, it does kind of make it harder for the communication, to happen for people. And that's what I was kind of thinking, even with like family, like, I start trying to, I see in my family sometimes, or even in other families where people aren't as talkative to one another because maybe people are a little too invested in their phones or a little too invested in, I gotta text these people and stuff like that. And, it kind of takes away like, they're physically there, but it's like they're really not there like in general. It's like they're more into like their phone. So I was just thinking about like how, and if I had to give like a piece of advice for anybody out there that's, maybe that kind of person. I've been that person where I'm maybe on my phone, even in family settings. I think just pursuing whether it's technology, money, fashion, whatever the case may be, I think just pursuing those intangible things like having that quality time and love and, peace and happiness with your family and your loved ones, your friends, out there instead of like pursuing the newest things. Because at the end of the day, like money and technology and fashion as always things are going to go out of style, out of trend and stuff like that, but at the end of the day like your family and your friends and the love and the peace and the happiness that you have with them never goes away.
No, that will never go away. You can't replace it with fashion. You can't replace it with technologies and money. You can't buy the family time you miss with money. Those are intangible stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So going after those intangibles, I think are, really good to really think about as like we're, coming to a close with this. So, anyways, I definitely appreciate you so much for being on here. This was definitely a good conversation and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So I hope that all of you viewers enjoyed this episode, whether you are watching this on my YouTube page or if you are watching this on Instagram, or even if you are listening to this on any of the podcast streaming platforms. I always appreciate your support there as well. So, anyways, everybody, I hope that you're all going to have a good rest of your day or night, depending on when you're watching this or listening to this. And I will see y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel.
Thank you, everybody that took the time to listen to this episode of Not Your Average Joel. My podcast is available not only on YouTube, but also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. I also have an Instagram page where you can see outstanding moments, behind the scenes, and even a funny moment or two from each episode at Not Your Average Joel Podcast. If you want to get in contact with me, then my Instagram page is probably the best way to do so through direct messaging. I appreciate any kind of support that you have given to this channel, whether you are a guest or a listener to this podcast. Once again, I thank y'all so much, and I look forward to sharing more of my life with y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel. Goodbye.